Hello, good people. Welcome back to another blessed message with Lady Ni, also known as Minister. Hey. Got that shimmy going on. Ow. Okay, so the last time that a video was posted, we were discussing the story of Jonah. Okay, but at that time we did not discuss Jonah and the whale. We left the whale part off because we were focused on Jonah being disobedient to God and the ramifications of Jonah's disobedience, which was being placed back where he needs to go in the first place. Okay, so God said go to Nineveh. He said, nah, I don't want to. I'm going to do something else. God said, I'm going to take you and put you where you need to be anyway. But before he actually made it to Nineveh, the Lord hid Jonah in the whale, okay? And I use the term hid on purpose because we serve a God that will hide you in plain sight. Everyone can see you, but they cannot touch. They can look, but they can't touch, okay? That is what God would do. So sometimes in our distress, our stressful situation, dismay, whatever you want to call it, we feel in our hearts and our spirits that, oh, God has forsaken us. However, that's not the case. God hides you so you can correct some things, so he can renew you, okay? So he can elevate you during that hidden time, that wilderness season, okay? And that was the case of Jonah. So when Jonah disobeyed, first he was shipwrecked. He jumped and tried to hide on the ship, and he was shipwrecked. And then if we look at Jonah 1, verse 17, it says, but the Lord provided a great fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was inside the fish 3 days and 3 nights because he had to get himself together. So sometimes God, again, places you in spaces, places, wildernesses, where it seems like he has abandoned you, but it's actually your time to think, to meditate, to get it together, reorganize, re-strategize, plan some things out when you're falling by the wayside. So that was the case of Jonah. But this is the thing that spoke to my heart, and I hope it will speak to your heart as well, is that in chapters 2 of Jonah, Jonah has a prayer. Excuse me. He acknowledges the fact that God has hidden him in plain sight, that was a part of God's divine protection, the whale. Okay. Yes, he was swallowed by the whale, but he wasn't eaten. He wasn't devoured. He wasn't torn apart. He was swallowed to keep him in a safe space, a safe place, a place of protection where he could get himself together, get his mind right. Okay. So this is Jonah's prayer in chapter 2. It says, from inside the fish, Jonah prayed to the Lord, his God. He said, in my distress, I called to the Lord, and he answered to me. Okay. So again, the answer to Jonah's prayers was the whale. Somebody got hit. Again, he was experiencing a shipwreck because of his disobedience to the Lord. There was turbulence. There was a storm. He would have drowned in the sea once they tossed him overboard. And yet he says, in my distress, I called to the Lord, and he answered to me. From the depths of the grave, I called for help, and you listened to my cry. Because otherwise, if not for the whale, Jonah would have drowned. Period. So sometimes we're in situations where it looks like, again, this is the worst thing that can happen to me, Lord. Why have you placed me here? And yet, that is the divine protection. That is a divine protection. You guys do not understand me. Have you ever heard of someone who said they found the Lord once they went to jail? They was locked up and then they started reading their Bible. Divine protection. Because if not, they will hit it down a bad path. They were going to spiral out of control and never find their way back. So sometimes God uses interventions to intercede on our behalf, and it may not look the way we would like, He's not putting us up in a motel or a hotel. No, he's putting us in the whale. He puts us in the woods, the wilderness, so we can get right with the Lord. But let's continue this prayer. It says, you hurled me into the deep, into the very heart of the seas. And that's verse 3. And the current swirled around me. About all your waves and breakers swept over me. Okay? Let's read 3 again. You hurled me into the deep, into the very heart of the seas, and the current swirled around me. All your waves and breakers swept over me. I said, I have been banished from your sight, yet I will look again towards your holy temple. And that is what God is calling us to do. Whenever we feel abandoned, we feel like it's over, he wants us to return to him. He wants us to look upon him and give our hearts over. Not to give up on the Lord. That's the last thing you should be doing. The first thing is to dig deep within your hearts and seek him first. Seek God first. Give your heart over to the Lord. The engulfing waters threatened me, and this is verse 5. The deep surrounded me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. So he was all caught up. He was all caught up. He was about to drown. Okay? To the roots of the mountains I sank down. The earth beneath me buried me in forever. But, you brought my life up from the pit, oh Lord, my God. How many times has God saved you from the pit? You were headed down the wrong path, and yet he came and he grabs you. He grabs you by the hand, and he took you. He took hold of you. That is what Jonah is speaking on. So sometimes when you're in your wilderness, again, you in that pit, it's protected. It's a protection factor just for you. So we have to be grateful. We have to be thankful and say, thank you, Lord. You allowed me to get myself together. In verse 7, it says, when my life was ebbing away, meaning your life was being destroyed. You were wasting your life. You weren't doing the righteous thing. I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you, to your holy temple. Those who cling to worthless idols forfeit the grace that could be theirs. Wow. So this is speaking on, you got to be willing to give up some stuff, sacrifice. Even though Jonah had a particular direction for his life that he preferred, God said, this is what I want you to do. And if you don't give up your idol, you forfeit. You forfeit the promise. You forfeit the kingdom. But I, with a song of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good. Salvation comes from the Lord. And the Lord commanded the fish, and it vomited Jonah unto dry land. Okay. So that's the thing. God, once he knows that you connected, that you're willing to sacrifice some stuff and you walk in righteousness with him, he'll allow the fish to expel you from its guts. You hear me? And that's what we want. So this is to encourage someone today that despite where you feel like you are right now in life, God still loves you. There's still an open door for you to receive God into your heart, into your mind, into your soul, into your spirit. He wants you always. He's never going to turn you away. That's the great thing about God. He's not going to turn you away because salvation comes from the Lord. And that's the only way at the end of the day. So yes. So even when you're in an unpleasant spot in your life, don't give up. Don't give up. Instead, say thank you. Whenever you want to complain, just like Jonah, you say, thank you, Lord. Thank you for this. Thank you for the experience. Thank you for these people. Thank you for the food. Thank you. It may not be what you want all the time. However, we still have to be appreciative for what God is providing for us. And that's the message for today at this time. Be peace-filled always. Walk in righteousness. I'll talk to you real soon.